Welcome to or welcome back to Jules' Archive. I've lived in San Francisco for almost 3 years now, and I have seen a lot of the bookstores around the city, made my way to most of them. In this new year, if you're looking to support more independent bookstores and you live in or are visiting San Francisco, this is the place to look. I'll be sharing San Francisco bookstore recs depending on what kind of reader you are. I have my laptop with me again today, so grab a cozy drink. Mine of choice today is a jasmine tea in my Harrods mug. Alright, so the first category of bookstores I have is based on genre and or language. And then the second category I have is more like archetypes, depending on what kind of person you are. And the third one is bookstores I haven't been to yet and the reason why I want to give them a visit. In terms of bookstores for certain genres and languages, first off is Japanese Kinokuniya Books, which is in Japantown or Lower Pack Heights / Western Edition. And this is a chain. I believe they're also in New York City and a couple other cities, but they have a huge Japanese language selection. The bottom floor of the store is mainly manga, a lot of comics as well, and Japanese culture related items in terms of like TV, anime, etc., trinkets. And then upstairs is more like literature, so that's where you'll find like a lot of translated works, also a lot of novels more in English as well, and kind of gift books and other books on topics like design, architecture, as well as more like stuffed animals and trinkets. This is a fun store if you're looking to expand your horizons in Japanese or find a new manga. They also have lots of beautiful like deluxe editions, and you could just tell there's lots of people there that are really excited about it. Tends to be a pretty busy store because it's in the mall in Japantown, so if you're gonna be there on a weekend, expect it to be pretty busy, but during the week it's not bad, and it's also very big, 2 floors. Separate from just Japanese and manga, and thinking more generally about Asian literature and history, we have On Waverly in Chinatown, which is a really small boutique. About half the store is gifts. They have really beautiful selection of stickers, trinkets, gift items, and then the second half is books. It's a very small store, but they have a really thoughtful selection. They have book events with authors with topics on like the Asian diaspora as well. And they have several cookbooks as well, which is pretty fun. They also often have a lot of like signed editions in there, and the staff, you can tell as well, is very passionate. And On Waverly is in Chinatown. The next one we have is Russian, which is Globus Books in the Richmond. I didn't know Globus Books was like Russian focused until I walked in there and I was like, whoa, everything is not in English. They do have a small section in the front of the store, which is Russian works translated into English, but then the rest of the pretty small shop is entirely in Russian. So you can expect to walk in there and hear a lot of Russian versus in On Waverly and Kinokuniya, less Japanese Asian languages. The owner of Globus Books speaks to a lot of their guests in Russian. It's just a really cool vibe. And like I said, if you're an English speaker but looking to kind of expand your horizons, there's a section for Russian works translated into English.
Hello. Since filming this, I went to Telegraph Hill Books, which was initially on my list of bookstores to go to. So I'm adding them here for books in Italian. Telegraph Hill is kind of like a micro neighborhood in North Beach, which is the Little Italy of San Francisco. I thought they were just kind of a general bookstore, and that's what I was popping in for. But they mostly have books on Italian. So the big space in the bookstore, which by the way is very beautiful and has lots of natural light, is mostly books in Italian. Not really translated into English, but in Italian. They have really cute like blurbs from the bookstore staff. And then the front of the bookstore is more like new releases in English and popular books in English. It was kind of funny because just in like supporting Telegraph Hill Books, I placed a pre-order for one of the books in my highly anticipated reads for 2026. Funny because he had 2 screens pulled up. I could see like his whole setup, because it was just kind of in the middle of the store. He was checking for my name in the Italian books, which was like pages and pages of pre-orders, and then he couldn't find it. He was like, oh, it's in English, and then he went and looked at like the list of 4 books in English. So I guess that's good. They're getting pre-orders and books on hold in Italian, which is cool. But yeah, it's like a block away from Washington Square Park, but like a little bit tucked into the neighborhood, which is cute. So yeah, I recommend Telegraph Hill Books for any books in Italian.
And then transitioning to like specific genres, we have fantasy, sci-fi, and mystery at Borderland Books in Haight-Ashbury. Borderland Books is in a very busy touristy area of the Haight-Ashbury neighborhood, which is kind of known for its like hippie vibes and countercultural origins. And Borderlands Books is just a really fun display. It's one of my favorites because it has these really huge shelves just stacked with really beautiful fantasy novels. The staff there is very sweet and loves talking to you about their favorite titles. And it's generally like fantasy in the front of the shop. And then as you go in, it becomes a little bit more like sci-fi. And then the second half is a lot of mysteries. And that's where you can find a lot of like older titles as well, like the really tiny kind of mystery and fantasy books, versus the front of the store is more like new. And then we have graphic novels and comics. There are a lot of beautiful graphic novel shops, specifically in the Mission. There is Silver Sprocket and Sour Cherry Books, and the ones I'm going to recommend today is Silver Sprocket. It's one of my favorite bookstores because they have so many titles. It's just one of those stores when you walk in and just the entire shop stuffed in with books and zines and comics. You can just tell the staff there like truly loves graphic novels. They also have a lot of like signed copies there, quite a few events. It's also just a beautifully outlaid store, like I was saying, with graphic novels, comics, zines, with a lot of like local authors highlighted as well. And I've seen that they have a really unique collection, kind of beyond what you would see in just any typical bookstore with their graphic novel collection. Silver Sprocket really has it all, and it's a pretty big space. My second recommendation for graphic novels and comics is Comics Experience, which is on Divisadero in the North Panhandle, Nopa neighborhood, and they also have a beautiful collection. It's a smaller shop, so they don't have as much, but they have a really cool like kids/young adult section, and I really enjoy how they have a whole section on like memoirs, fantasy. They kind of have more a separation by genre, if that's what you're looking for in your graphic novels. Like for me specifically, I love graphic memoirs and I love graphic novels on history, so that tends to be where I go, and I love how Comics Experience is organized for that. Next is Architecture and Design at William Stout Architectural Books, which is in North Beach. As you might be able to guess, since they're a bookstore all on architecture and design, this bookstore is gorgeous. There's so much light wood, and a lot of the books lend themselves to just being gorgeous covers. You can find mostly books on architecture and different designers and architects and their works, but there's also a lot of books on more like digital design and technology, especially since, you know, we're in San Francisco. So if you're interested in those topics, I definitely recommend it. Then we have cookbooks. In San Francisco, we are blessed to have a bookstore completely dedicated to cookbooks and cooking, and that's at Omnivore Books in Noe Valley. This one is a little bit more hidden away. There isn't as much right by Omnivore Books, but it is so fun to just be able to peruse all the cookbooks. They have stacks on stacks in this tiny bookstore. They also have a lot of author events and many signed cookbooks in the store. And they have like a little free books area just outside the shop as well. Next, we have poetry at City Lights Bookstore in North Beach. City Lights is a very historic bookstore, I think one of the oldest in the city. They have their own publishing house, but they also have a whole section upstairs. It's about 3 floors, and the section upstairs is all poetry. So if that's your thing, if you're looking for a new poetry collection, they have so many options up there. It's not really my thing, but I do appreciate their collection. Next is queer literature and history at Fabulosa Books in the Castro. The Castro is known as the historically LGBT neighborhood in San Francisco, so it's just super fitting that a queer bookstore is in the heart of the Castro, and it's actually on Castro Street. I adore how the fiction is organized because you go to this huge wall of just fiction, and it's organized by identity. So like there's a section that says bisexuality and transgender, and you can look at novels that focus on those like themes and identities. And there's also always a great curated recommendation section in the middle of the bookstore, and then there's other sections based on just, you know, general genres. Like I really like their fantasy collection, their graphic novel collection, and they have always a good selection of discounted books in the back as well, and translated works. Closing off genres or languages are vintage books. This is not something I look for a ton, but I have noticed a couple bookstores where they have cases on vintage books. One of them being Dog-Eared Books, which is in the Mission. This is another very popular historic bookstore where they have a case of vintage books. And then Russian Hill Books, which is in the Russian Hill neighborhood, and they also have a case of vintage books just in the front. Not as many as I've seen at Dog Ear, but they do have a few. And then depending on what you're into, I have recommendations based on the kind of reader you are. So if you're looking for author talks in the city, I have several recommendations for that. I have attended so many amazing author talks and book launch events through different bookstores in the city. And the ones I have found the most events at are the Booksmith, Green Apple Books, and City Lights. The Booksmith is on Haight-Ashbury. It's actually right across from Borderlands Books, which is amazing because when I'm in the area, I always go to both of them. Green Apple Books has multiple locations. They're like the oldest bookstore in the city. I think they have 3 locations in the Inner Sunset and the Richmond. I tend to go to the Green Apple Books in the Parks shop because they just have more events that I'm interested in, but it's also closer to me. That's in the Inner Sunset, and then City Lights is in North Beach. Some highlights for events that I've attended has been with Kaveh Akbar, who's the author of Martyr, Tommy Orange, who wrote There and Wandering Stars, Bonnie Sui, who wrote On Muscle and Why We Swim, and Carissa Chen from Homeseeking. I have enjoyed all of those events. I'm sure there are several other bookstores that have lots of author events depending on what you're interested in. For example, I've seen quite a few chefs and cooking content creators come to like On More Books. I'm just not as interested in those like top. If you're interested in local or independent publishers, City Lights bookstore in North Beach has their own books, and Browser Books also in Lower Pacific Heights, which is owned by Green Apple Books but is run independently. They also have a lot of independent publishers that they showcase. I love discovering that City Lights publishes their own books. When I discovered that for the first time, I just thought it was so cool to support like local Bay Area, San Francisco authors and a lot of poetry as well. And then Browser Books, I don't think they have their own publishing house, but they do showcase a lot of independent publishers or smaller publishers.
Hello again. Noodle, my matcha latte, and my San Francisco Public Library pencil welcome you. I realized after filming this that I forgot that Silver Sprocket, which is like my favorite graphic novel / comic book store in the city, they are also an indie publisher. So they have their own publishing house, but also hold a lot of graphic novels from like Bay Area or independent artists and illustrators and writers themselves. So yeah, if you are looking to support a local / indie publisher in terms of graphic novels, I recommend the Silver Sprocket.
If you are a local history lover, especially of Bay Area or San Francisco, I recommend City Lights and Green Apple Books. These are huge historic bookstores that have been in San Francisco for decades. They have a great collection that showcases history on the Bay and San Francisco. They're also huge stores, so they have a lot to share. If you are looking for cheap used books, I gotta recommend the Friends of the San Francisco Public Library, which is located in the main library branch on Larkin Street, this huge public library in the Civic Center. You can just buy books for just like a couple of bucks and then carry on with your day. I bought like 3 books there at a time and they were in great condition, almost new. Forest Books, which is in Japantown or the Western Edition, very close to Kinokuniya within the malls, but outside. And you can also buy books there pretty cheaply. And then Books Inc., specifically for their summer warehouse sale. Books Inc. was just recently bought out by Barnes & Noble, so I don't know if they'll be continuing their warehouse sale. In the past, I know they've had a loyalty program where you can get an extra discount, and I've applied that to books that I picked up for like $5-7 at their summer book sale. If you're looking for a pretty view and ambiance, I love the Book Passage in the Ferry Building on the Embarcadero, specifically because it's right by the water. The shop is also on the side of the Ferry Building next to the ferries, so you can pick up a book, walk right outside, sit on a bench, and enjoy the ferry. And then one of my favorite bookstores and the best matcha I've ever had in the city is at Blackbird Bookstore and Cafe, which is in Outer Sunset. It's pretty close to Ocean Beach, so you can grab a coffee, a book, and go sit on Ocean Beach as well and enjoy the views, the surfers there. They also have one of the best matcha lattes I've ever had. It's strong, but it's really, really good. I will say, be warned if you're coming to Blackbird to work on your laptop. They are analog, so they don't have Wi-Fi and they don't allow like laptops or big devices out. They really have an encouraging environment to like sit and read, enjoy coffee, talk to people, etc. Blackbird also has really cool events, a monthly reading club and a monthly writing club where you just show up. I think you pay like $10 and you write and meet people and mingle. So I love them for that reason as well. It's just one of my favorite bookstores in the city. It's gorgeous. It has so much light coming through into this like entirely wood bookstore, and a really gorgeous like outdoor seating area. In terms of book clubs, I'm sure similar to author events, several bookstores in the city have book clubs, but the ones that I've discovered are the Booksmith in Haight-Ashbury, Noe Valley Books in Noe Valley, and Fabulosa Books in the Castro. All of these bookstores offer discounts on the book if you join their book club discussion. I know like the Booksmith, for example, offers 10% off if you buy their book there, and it's a really good way to, meet people, talk about book, have a structured setting. I believe they're monthly as well. And kind of similarly for memberships, I feel like I just started hearing about memberships recently, but Comics Experience on Divisadero has one. I think it's similar to a book club, but they send you a new graphic novel or a comic every month if you join. I think you pay like a certain amount to join, and then they send you a novel. And there might also be a discussion for that, I'm not completely sure. And then Silver Sprocket in the Mission. Silver Sprocket is coming to the end of their lease and their rent is increasing. So they've introduced a membership to, try and garner financial support to stay at their location in the Mission. So if you're interested in supporting a local bookstore, and specifically graphic novel store, that is incredible. I will link their membership program down below. And they have discounted books every month, and I pay credit, $10, $15 credit on your birthday month, so you can treat yourself to a new book. If you are a music lover, I gotta recommend Bird and Beckett Books and Records, which is at Glen Park. This is a little farther away than all the other bookstores, but Glen Park is this really fun, like very small kind of neighborhood vibe within the city. As you might be able to guess from the name of the shop, they have records, but also tons of books on music. And most of the books are used, so pretty cheap, but they do have some new, and it's just a really fun vibe. And I think they also have a jazz night there, if that's something you're interested in. If you're a board gamer, I recommend Russian Hill Books. Russian Hill Books is like half the shop is gifts, and there's a toy section in the back and board games. There's tons to look for there. If you're a trinket lover or a gift giver, I also recommend Russian Hill Books. Like I said, they like half their shop dedicated to just kind of trinkets and home goods and toys and games. On Waverly has a great selection of curated gifts by Asian-owned brands and small businesses. I love their selection because I feel like there's a lot of thought into them. They're also displayed beautifully, and they have a variety of like home goods and gifts. Green Apple Books, by its nature of being a huge shop, they also have a huge selection for gifts and toys and games. And then Blackbird Books and Cafe, they have a smaller section because it's a smaller shop, but they have really like beautiful home goods. The shop is very much dedicated to kind of environmentalism, sustainability, and nature in general. So a lot of their goods are kind of more subtle, artistic, a lot of local brands and kind of environmentally conscious are friendly goods. If you're a nature lover, I gotta recommend Blackbird Bookstore and Cafe in Outer Sunset. They have a gorgeous outdoor seating area in the back with so many plants and like nice benches and seating where you can just go sit with your coffee or tea and your new book, or like chat with a friend. I've done that many a time, and it's always just like so rejuvenating. You're just surrounded by plants and it's pretty secluded and very nice. If you are looking to expand your horizons, specifically like new types of thinking, I gotta recommend Bound Together Bookstore, which is one of the more unique bookstores in the city, in Haight-Ashbury, kind of leaning into the like countercultural history of Haight-Ashbury neighborhood. Bound Together is like an anarchist bookstore. I think that's even in its title. And it's also completely volunteer run, and you'll always find books to learn from. I always find books on like capitalism or kind of different political thinkers throughout history. There's a lot, focused on the direction the United States is heading right now. And it fits the vibe of the Haight-Ashbury neighborhood so well. And there's lots of used books as well, kind of novels if you're looking to just support the bookstore. In terms of kind of a very comforting, welcoming neighborhood vibe, I love Christopher's Books, which is in Potrero Hill, and Noe Valley Books in Noe Valley. They're both pretty small stores, but have like a really delightful staff. The staff at both shops have just like chatted with me about the books that I've gotten. They also both have really personable newsletters that I like, with lots of like staff recommendations, staff comments on new releases. So I really enjoyed like getting those emails. They're just great in terms of supporting the neighborhood and feeling like you are part of that neighborhood. And then I gotta shout out the bookstore in my neighborhood, which is Books and Bookshelves. So if you're looking for a new bookshelf made from hand from like high quality wood, you gotta go to Books and Bookshelves in Dubois Triangle. The name of the store pretty much says it all. I don't hear this shop mentioned enough, but they have a really great like used book collection. They have some new books and lots of beautiful cards and gifts in the front of the shop, but they also have just bookshelves you can buy to add to your apartment or home. And the owner is super sweet. Those are all my bookstore recommendations in San Francisco based on the ones I visited, but I do want to shout out the bookstores I haven't been to yet that I'm looking forward to. The first one is Adobe Books, which is in the Mission. I've heard this is another great like community staple. I've seen that they also have like some events and I want to hit them up. There's also Argonaut Bookshop, which is in Nob Hill. This is a neighborhood I don't go to as much, just kind of, I don't live close to it and it's not as well connected for me via the trains. But I think they have a great used book collection. I want to check those out. Book Castle, I believe, is kind of a generalist bookstore, but they have a big selection on kids' books. Last I saw, they were moving location. Their previous location was in Bernal Heights, so they might be staying there, I'm not sure, but I'll be looking out for where their new location is. Vintage books, I want to check out Bellarium Books in the Mission. Interestingly, I actually just was like walking by Bellarium on Mission Street and I wanted to check them out, but they actually only do appointments now. Since COVID, they've had appointments to view their vintage book collection. So I want to book one of those and kind of see what it's like. In terms of local publishers, I want to check out Chronicle Books, which is in Mission Bay. SF Chronicle is our newspaper here in the city. I don't really read the newspaper, but I am curious about what their like book collection looks like in terms of publishing. In terms of combining art and community, I want to check out Medicine for Nightmares Bookstore and Gallery in the Mission. As you can see from the title, they also have an art gallery. And I think this bookstore is also kind of focused on alternative thinking, so that entices me. And it's in the Mission, so pretty close to me. In terms of art and design, this is not really a dedicated bookstore, but I do want to go to the SFPL museum shop in Yerba Buena to check out kind of what they have, especially in terms of books relating to their exhibits. Those are all the San Francisco bookstores I've discovered. If I missed any, please let me know and I would love to check them out and support them. Hope this helps you find a new recommendation or learn a little bit more about a specific bookshop. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you later. Have a good one. Bye.